Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of The Productive Attorney. My name is Jim Zeta. I'll be your host. This is a podcast designed to make you more efficient as an attorney so you can do things outside the law that you want to do. Today, we're going to talk about scams against attorneys and scams that have worked. There are a lot of them that are out there. There's a lot of times that most lawyers will catch on to them and catch on to them real quickly. But even the ones who are the most aware and the most astute to these kind of things can easily get scammed. I teach on this. I teach in the law school about these scams. I look at all the time. I look up websites that do this, and I got caught the other day. We were doing payroll. I sent out an email or a text to my staff asking for overtime hours that they had so I could complete the payroll. And that was in the morning. About an hour after I sent out that text, I received an email from one of my associates. And this particular associate was out of state taking care of a sick relative. And so it made sense that he would want money transferred to a different account while he was out of state. He had just left the day before and sent me an email saying, "Can you change the bank on my direct deposit?" And I said, "Sure," but I sent it directly to my payroll processing company. Fortunately, they said that they wanted him to fill out a form in order to do that. And so I sent the form to my associate, and he called me frantically and said, "I never sent you an email to change my direct deposit bank. What's going on?" Well, I had been super busy that morning and just blazing through my emails to get back to where I wanted to get was zero, in my inbox. And I had failed to notice that while it had my associate's name properly, the email that it came from was not my associate's email. And so I was able to tell the payroll processing company that it was a scam and that I'm not going to ask them to process that particular change. So it was very fortunate that my processing company, which is Paychecks, that they took that extra security step for me to prevent me from sending my associate's payroll to some bank in some foreign country. And so even to the person like me who teaches about it and who looks for these scams, even I can get scammed. And so that means anybody out there, any lawyer out there can really get in trouble. And the one that, the area that creates the most problems is the cashier's check or the wire area. That's where a lot of lawyers get scammed for the big dollars. There was a Texas Supreme Court case which came out on just this past week. And in that Texas Supreme Court case, it involved, just in 2020, involved an attorney who was sent a cashier's check. And the cashier's check was a Chase Bank cashier's check sent by a client. And the client said to deposit the check into the IOLTA fund and then take that money out of the IOLTA fund, less the lawyer's fee, and send it off to a bank in Japan for settlement of a claim. So the lawyer received his $400,000, and the lawyer received it, went down to his bank. His bank went ahead and deposited it in his IOLTA trust fund account. And the lawyer received notice on his trust account that the funds were available. His client was saying, "Look, they're waiting in Japan for this money. Please send it as soon as possible." So he went through his bank, which was not Chase Bank, which was a local bank. And the local bank filled out all the forms for him to do the wire. He signed off on the wire. The wire went out, and the very next day, the bank received notice that the cashier's check was not a good cashier's check, that it was fraudulent. And so the lawyer said to the bank, "Well, you shouldn't have told me my funds were available. You told me my funds were available." But what happens is when you go on the internet and you look at your bank account and it says they're available, that doesn't mean that the funds have officially cleared. There's a two-step process for the bank. The first one is that the funds are past the initial test of just being looked at. Test is not the right word. Just kind of on face value, hey, it's in our account, it's gone through our system, the funds are available for you. But that doesn't mean that the check has completely cleared. In some cases, especially with some foreign bank account checks, it can take days or even weeks for that check to go through the second part of the process, a more thorough process where your bank actually goes to the other bank and says, give me the funds. Just because they're available doesn't mean that your bank has them yet. And that float period, the period between the amount being available on the account and the amount of it being actually honored, is what the bad guys use. They use that all the time, and that's what they use in this case. So in this case, the lawyer refused to pay. He said to the bank, he said, you spent the money out there. You shouldn't have sent that money out there. I'm not paying you back $400,000, less my fee, so $350,000. I'm not paying you back. And the bank said, oh, yes, you are, and filed a lawsuit. The Texas Supreme Court said the lawsuit from the bank against the lawyer is open and shut, that the bank owes it. But the issue for the Texas Supreme Court was the lawyer filed counterclaims, and in those counterclaims, the lawyer argued that there was misrepresentations made, that there was fraud involved, allegations like that against the bank, and it was divided between the trial court of appeals as to what to do. But the Supreme Court ultimately came out and said the lawyer is responsible, and it did a pretty long analysis of the UCC and the elements of the causes of action, and just said in the end it's the lawyer's fault. And so the lawyer is now going to have a judgment against him in the amount of $350,000 plus attorney's fees from the bank. It's being remanded to figure out what that exact amount is. So this was just 2020. This has been going on. This cashier's check scam has been going on for a while. The one I teach in my class is there was a group of people that was doing this. It was a pretty sophisticated group, and they would get cashier's checks that were real cashier's checks, but they get them in the amount of $20 or $40, but they change them to $200,000 or $400,000. So they just changed the amount. So the cashier's check itself was correct, but the amount was what was fraudulent. And it turned out that one of the individuals behind this was a lawyer out of Texas, of all places. And eventually, after stealing $8.8 million from lawyers, this individual was caught and was sentenced to 40 years in jail for this particular scam. So if you have anything where you have a cashier's check and you're going to send out a wire based on the cashier's check, and you're getting pressured to send out that wire, double, triple, quadruple check and make sure everything is correct. There was another scam that happened recently that's similar, but not the same. This was a case involving a very, very large sale of a business. And so company A sells to company B, and sells the business to company B, and the law firm is in charge of going ahead and making sure this all happens. There's law firms on both sides, mergers and acquisitions. And at the end, once they hammer out all the details, the actual transfer of funds is left to an associate. And so the associate goes ahead and says, okay, I'm the selling company. We've got to go ahead and send the funds out to the buyers, or the buyer company has to send the funds out to the seller, and so you're the law firm that represents the buyer. So in part of the transaction, you get a listing of where the money should go. Well, this poor associate received an email from the law firm of the seller saying that, hey, we have decided that we need the funds sent somewhere else. Here's the instructions. This is where you need to send them. And the lawyer wrote back and said, well, I need the bank to verify that. So he wrote back to the people who had sent him the notice saying, hey, we need to have them sent somewhere else. And an email came to him saying, yes, this is where they should be. We're the bank. We've been changed, all official. And he called the phone number of the bank that was listed on the email. And that got a real person, and that real person said, yes, we've received instructions just like you. The money should come here. And so the associate changed the information as to where the funds should be sent to, and the funds were sent to this new bank. Turns out the entire set of emails, the phone number, everything was a sophisticated scam. He did not take the extra steps of actually going to the seller's lawyers themselves, because he thought that this email had come from the lawyers. He didn't make a phone call. He didn't verify with his client. He didn't verify with all the people that he should have verified with. And eventually the money was sent in the sale of the company, was sent to a bogus bank. We're talking millions of dollars. And then the associate gets the phone call and the email from opposing counsel saying, "Where's our money?" And he says, "Well, I sent it." And the seller says, or the buyer, the seller says, "We haven't received it." And I could just imagine what that associate's heart did when they found out that had happened. Lost millions of dollars in that particular case. So you've got to be, careful about that. Anytime you're wiring a bunch of money, you need to be 100% certain of where you're sending it, and need to be 100% certain that the money is going to the place where you want to go to. We also are getting other kind of very simple ones that I've seen that work. There's a letter we get each year, and it appears to be a bill to keep our domain name active. And when you look at the letter initially, it looks like any other invoice that you receive, and you really don't know which company or it's been transferred that's holding your domain name, and you don't want to lose your domain name, so you just pay it. And every year this bill comes, and every year it almost fools me. It's only $159, and I look at it and think, well, I'm just going to put it in process with the other bills. But since I sign all the checks, I start to look closer at it, and there is on page 2 in the back in the lower part, this is not a bill, this is a solicitation. But I imagine that if it almost gets past me, I can't imagine that there aren't law firms all throughout the country paying bills for their domain name that aren't really they aren't really bills, they're just solicitations. There's been a lot of fraud on the PPP stuff, where people were saying, hey, go ahead and send us all your information of your bank, we'll get you the PPP money, and they're fraudsters who are trying to get your bank information. We're also seeing on the personal injury side, there is a group that comes around with a set of facts that are perfect for us as attorneys to try and get a case settled. And they say, I've been talking with the company, I've been injured, I've got a partial settlement in place with this opposing party, and all I need to do is just get you to finalize it, make sure the release looks good, make sure the settlement disbursement is good, and as you process it, when you're done processing it, you can take off a fee. Some lawyers say 10%, some will say $5,000, whatever. You just process that settlement for me. Everything about the transaction is fake. The company that you are settling with is fake. The place where you're sending the information is fake. The emails exchanges are fake. And when you send the cashier's check to your quote client, or you wire the funds to your client, that person is fake too. It's very sophisticated where they have it set up with multiple parties, multiple emails, people even answering phones, official looking paperwork. It's very sophisticated, and it is a fact pattern that works so well that in the internet, on the listserv that I'm at with the plaintiffs' attorneys who do this kind of work, there was an email sent around to everybody saying, hey, did anybody else get this email? And it was it was the exact fact pattern that was sent around to all kinds of plaintiffs' attorneys. So we've got to watch out for that in our industry too. So this is a pretty short podcast because most of you out there recognize when there is a scam. You read your email pretty closely. But if there's any time that someone's asking you, the other one that we're seeing is the phishing expedition on trying to get into your email, trying to get your email password. If you are ever responding to something and they want your Microsoft email password or somehow to get into your system or into your server or into that, I just never give it. It's the only people that I would possibly give it to is our IT people, but they have all that information. So why would they want that again from me? I have it, they have it, no one else should have it, and you shouldn't be giving out to anybody. But there are times when we click. The one that I've talked about before is through a clerk. We had a summer clerk, and he or she must have clicked on, because I had both male and female over that summer, must have clicked on something that got into our system, and we got malware in our system that locked all the files and asked for ransom on the server. So you just don't know what they want and why they want to get into your system. Sometimes it's just annoying. They'll go ahead and send out an email out to all your friends, and it's just, you have to send an email to all your friends saying, don't click on this email. It was a scam email. And while it's not harmful in terms of financially, it's kind of embarrassing that you got brought in by this, and people think, well, what was he or she looking at when, that caused him to get this? I was looking up something for a case, and I looked up, I can't remember what it was, but it was very innocuous that I looked up. It may have been like non-compete law in North Carolina. And there was like the fourth thing that I clicked on just to get a feel for what it was, hit me with a redirect virus, which meant that every time and it was a Google Chrome extension that was thrown on my Google Chrome, where it just kept redirecting me, telling me I had to click on this in order to stop it from happening. And if I would have clicked on it, then it would have put me into, hey, give us your email password, give us all this information. And it was just kind of a redirect to get me into something bigger. And I didn't want to do it, but it was so annoying because every 10 seconds it would redirect me when I was on Google Chrome. And so I had to go on YouTube and figure out what was the extension and how to get rid of the extension. And it took me about an hour to figure it out, and it was a relief once I got it off my system, but it was something very innocuous. So you are being, as an attorney, you are a target, and you are being targeted every day with phishing emails, with cashier check scams, with wire fraud scams, with wanting to get into your internet, and God forbid you have somebody who gets in, if you're server-based as opposed to internet-based, someone gets into your server. And there was all those documents that led to the discovery of all the tax shelters that all these rich people had happened when people got into a big firm server, took all the information out. The big firm doesn't pay ransom. They go ahead and give it to WikiLeaks and give it to other people. And next thing you know, all this personal private information of all these celebrities and wealthy people are being put out on the internet. And it's a death knell for a big firm who does wealth management and tax strategies for clients, to have their clients' information out there, and people think that they're trying to avoid taxes and setting up accounts in foreign countries and corporations in foreign countries. It just doesn't look good, and that's information that you as an attorney are duty bound to take care of. If you fail to do that and your client's information gets out there, you're responsible, you're liable. And in some cases, you can lose your ticket, but in other cases, like the lawyer here in Texas, you're just out $400,000. And that's it. I mean, he's going to have to pay $400,000 because of this check scam. So be very careful. Always be careful when you are looking at emails. Make sure that when you look at an email from somebody, like I did from my associate, I didn't look closely, just saw the name, but the email was something totally different. If you even have an inkling that something is off, take time, breathe deep, and study it. Take the extra 30 seconds or a minute in your day to study that email to make sure that it's entirely correct and not a scam. And if necessary, pick up the phone and call their cell phone number, because their cell phone number, not the number on the email. Call someone's cell phone number, or go on the internet, find that particular firm, call that firm on the number through the internet. Don't rely on the information in the email itself to find what you can. So hope you don't get scammed. It sucks when you do. Most time you can fix it, but it just takes up time and is super annoying and super unproductive. And this is The Productive Attorney, and we want to be more productive. Thanks for listening.